Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, I was just barely watching this video on Jason A. Jason A is a pretty good channel. They keep they keep on top of signs of the times, and basically every video is just clips from news stories or other podcasts, and he doesn't do any narration himself, and it's just really good. He just collects essentially clips from the news media when there's different stories going on, and he follows all the strange things, all the signs of the times. So I like watching this channel because sometimes I first hear about a story through Jason A. But one thing that he likes to do, I guess he's a fan of Joe Rogan. I don't know. And as far as Joe Rogan goes, I think he's just fine. Like, obviously I don't agree with probably a lot of what he says, but I don't like watch his, I don't necessarily watch his podcast. Sometimes I'll catch clips, usually through Jason A. Or just like randomly, maybe one of his things will pop up as a recommended video and I'll watch it. And yeah, I don't have anything against Joe Rogan. I think he talks about a lot of interesting things, and yeah, he's one of these channels that does well with like interviewing other people. There's certain channels out there that's how they do it. They're able to successfully run a YouTube channel by just interviewing people. For some people it works, and for some people it doesn't. In my case, whenever I interview people, for whatever reason, those videos don't do very well typically. I'm still, interviewing Rabbi Gerfine because I feel like I can't let him go because it's too valuable of a resource of information, and it's just easy for me just to talk to him, do a video, share it with you, share what we talked about. So I'm not going to let him go. Occasionally I'll do certain interviews with people, but only on certain occasions. But anyway, he talks to a bunch of different people. As you know, if you don't know who Joe Rogan is, just really quick, I'm just going to read part of his Wikipedia article. So he's an American UFC color commentator, podcaster, comedian, actor, and former television host. He hosts the Joe Rogan Experience, a podcast in which he discusses current events, comedy, politics, philosophy, science, martial arts, and hobbies with a variety of guests. Well, and he gets into stuff like what we're going to talk about here. He gets into spiritual topics occasionally, as well as like things like UFOs and all like the fringe things that a lot of people are interested in. And so anyway, I was watching this. Oh, and by the way, here's his channel. I'll put the link for it in the description below. Just know that I don't have anything against him, but he's not always going to talk about things that are necessarily in line with the church. But it's a very popular YouTube channel or podcast. He has 16.1 million people, 1.2 thousand videos, which I've actually made more videos than he has. I'm at 1.7 thousand, but I only have 21,000. I just barely crossed 21,000, by the way. So that's pretty cool. Never thought that I would get this far. But anyway, so I like him just fine. I think, he comes across as genuine to me, and he just, is just doing his podcast and searching for truth. But in this particular video, which it seems to me it was just put out a couple days ago, it's this one right here with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for the New York Jets. He used to be with the Packers. They're talking about angels and demons and UFOs. And I've kind of talked about this before, how, I think that Satan is hard at work right now with causing as many problems as he can for us that are going into the millennium, because he's going to be bound. Now, what I've studied so far is that he's primarily going to be bound because those that move on into the millennium are going to be the righteous, people that are at least living a terrestrial lifestyle, terrestrial or celestial. And so just by definition, the people that are moving into the millennium already don't really listen to Satan anyway. But I do have at least a quote or two that talks about that the Lord will actually bind him in a certain way. So it's like a combination of those two things. But anyway, as we go into the millennium, he's not going to have as much influence, or he's not going to hardly have any influence at all. And so, you know, we know that he's bent on ruining things. His plan didn't get accepted. He was cast out of the presence of God, and he's a son of perdition. And as far as we know, as far as what's been revealed, he's gonna, forever be a son of perdition. And it seems that he has nothing better to do than to harass Earth and try and throw a wrench in our Heavenly Father's plan, and just try and ruin things. And so it would make sense to me that, he's had free reign, more or less, these last 6,000 years. We're going into a period where he's not going to have free reign. And so you might want to continue with your mission if you're him, and try and mess things up as much as possible for the millennium. And so how do you do that? Well, I think one thing has to do with the world's reception of Christ. Can you think of a way that you can ruin that? And I think the way that you do that is by casting Christ as an alien. Now, look, let's go over a couple quotes really quick. This is on my quotes, common misconceptions spreadsheet under the topic millennium. And the misconception is only members of the church will make it through the second coming and into the millennium, and no more missionary work. And that's not true. Let's just read a couple quotes. Okay. Because you have to wonder, how is it possible when Jesus Christ himself is here and he comes in power and glory in a way that certainly will be, it'll basically be supernatural in nature, or something that we've never seen before. He's going to be coming out of the sky with all the hosts of heaven. How would it be possible that people would not accept the church at that point, or take him for who he is? Because it's not just going to be Christians either. How is that possible? So let's read a couple of these quotes really quick. Let's see. This is Brigham Young, Journal of Discourses, Volume 2, page 316. Okay, he says, no. This one's better. This is still in the Journal of Discourses, but it's Volume 12, page 274, Brigham Young. In the millennium, I'll make it bigger. In the millennium, men will have the privilege of being Presbyterians, Methodists, or infidels, but they will not have the privilege of treating the name and character of deity as they have done heretofore. No, but every knee shall bow and every tongue confess to the glory of God the Father that Jesus is the Christ. All right, let's move on to Joseph Fielding Smith. This is Doctrines of Salvation, Volume 1, page 86. Some members of the church have an erroneous idea that when the millennium comes, all the people are going to be swept off the earth except righteous members of the church. That is not so. There will be millions of people, Catholics, Protestants, agnostics, people who they believe, well, let's find the definition of that. Agnostic definition. Let's do that. A person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God, or anything beyond material phenomena. A person who claims neither faith nor disbelief in God. So here we're going to have the literal Son of God here on earth. They're going to be able to see him. It's not just going to be belief. He's actually going to be there. And yet there's still going to be agnostics. How is that possible? We'll talk about it in just a minute. Okay, so there will be millions of people, Catholics, Protestants, agnostics, Mohammedans, which is, an older name for Muslims, people of all classes and of all beliefs. Now, just really quick, I think that you could probably insert here any other belief that there is. Hindus, Buddhists, The buzzword nowadays is indigenous. Uh, People that have indigenous faiths or religions, whatever. Okay, still permitted to remain upon the face of the earth, but they will be those who have lived clean lives, those who have been free from wickedness and corruption, all who belong by virtue of their good lives to the terrestrial order, as well as those who have kept the celestial law, while remaining upon the face of the earth during the millennium. Eventually, however, the knowledge of the Lord will cover the earth as the waters do the sea, but there will be need for the preaching of the gospel after the millennium is brought in. You see that? There's still going to be missionary work. And I feel like we've covered this pretty well on the channel. I don't know if this is news to anybody, but it's not like all of a sudden, okay, we're done. That's it. It's a wrap. No, there's still going to be missionary work. And we're going to read another quote from Joseph Fielding Smith where he says it's going to be basically our greatest time of need of missionaries. Okay, so there will be a need for the preaching of the gospel after the millennium is brought in, until all men are either converted or pass away. In the course of the 1,000 years, all men will either come into the church or kingdom of God, or they will die and pass away. In that day, there will be no death until men are old. Children will not die, but will live to the age of a tree. Isaiah says this is 100 years. When the time comes for men to die, they will be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and there will be no graves. Okay. I think this is, let's see. Yeah, I think this is it right here. Okay, so we're still in Doctrines of Salvation. This is volume 3, page 439. The gospel will be taught far more intensely and with greater power during the millennium until all the inhabitants of the earth shall embrace it. You guys, I think this is really what the Lord's Youth Battalion has to do with, and President Nelson's saying that we're in the last half of the 9th inning, which means that you have the last team that's up to bat, and the game's on the line, and this whole thing with the missionary surge. I think that they're going to do a lot of work before the second coming, but I also think that they're the transition team, those that will be the last ones to be missionaries on this side of the second coming, and then those that will be the first missionaries in the millennium. I think that's what we're seeing right now. I really do. Let me just pull this up again. Let's see. I have this tracker. Okay, what do I have it under? I think it's under timeline and missionary work. Yes. Okay. Remember, we've recently had a big surge in missionaries during President Monson's time because of the lowering of the mission age. And then it kind of went down after that. Things started to even out. And then we had the pandemic, which really dealt a blow to missionary work as well as temple work and everything else. But now, it's the pandemic has wound down, and President Nelson made a special request in the April 2022 General Conference for missionaries. And we've read articles saying that his request is credited for the surge of missionaries that we're seeing right now, that it's exceptional what's going on right now. So the last we heard, the number of missionaries right now is over 72,000. And so that would bring us back up to the levels of, you'd have to go back to 2015 to see a bigger year. And it's probably going to continue to go up. Now, I hope that the second coming is sooner than later. I hope it's this year. And when I say second coming, pick whatever appearance you want. I hope any of them, all of them happen this year. I don't know. But if it doesn't, it's going to be interesting to see this number, because I'm guessing it's probably going to go up. It's going to continue to go up, and we'll have potentially the largest number of missionaries the church has ever seen right before the second coming and going into the millennium. We've listened to Brad Wilcox. He said that there's going to be a big, big influx of people that join the church, because many people will believe when Christ comes. And us as a church, we're going to have this problem of absorbing all these people. Are we going to have enough priesthood holders to baptize and, work in the temple and and women that work in the temple and everything else. So, okay, so you see this. So you're going to have all these people that still have all the different beliefs that exist right now. So, if you're Satan, how do you throw a wrench in that? Well, I think right now one of his main goals is to try and hype up this whole idea of aliens, interdimensional beings, and stuff like that. Let me just read this part from what Joe Rogan said. He says, in that it's been a part of existence, and that this is a part of these biblical stories of angels and devils, and that's why what they're really talking about, they're talking about these interdimensional beings. Yeah, it's like they've always been here, and it might be connected somehow or another to our minds, the mind, and then he goes on to talk about psychedelic chemicals and things like that. And so this would be a great way to try and plant those seeds in the minds of, in the case of Joe Rogan. And I'm not saying that he's intentionally doing this. I'm not saying that he's being an antagonist or anything like that. But this is planting seeds in the minds of 16.1 million people, or however many people watch this podcast or this video. This idea that maybe Christ, he's not really, Jesus Christ from the Bible, the savior of mankind, but he's a benevolent alien or interdimensional being, because there's already people that believe that right now, right? That he wasn't the savior of mankind. He was just a very wise sage, like one of the greatest teachers that the world's ever seen. So there's people that just leave it at that. Other people that take it to a new level where they say, well, he wasn't Jesus Christ the way that Christians think of it, but he was like this interdimensional being, or he was an alien, and now he's back. It's just all those people from before, they didn't understand, they couldn't comprehend what he actually was, and so they turned it into this religion called Christianity. And so I think Satan is preparing that group of people to not believe in Christ when he comes. And it's not going to be that Christ is going to come and start to force people to believe in him and who he is. I don't know what it's actually going to look like, but we know that his way is not a way of force. It's his way is through persuasion and teaching and being an example and reaching out and inviting people to come follow him, but it's not by force. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how things go down. All the world will see him, but it doesn't seem that everyone's going to interpret him the same way. We know from scripture that the Jews, at least most of them, are going to accept him when he comes. I think that there's still going to be missionary work among the Jews. Like, I don't think all of them are immediately going to accept him. The reason why I believe that, you can find that on my playlist called Times of the Gentiles, which talks about the transition of primarily taking the gospel to the Gentiles and then after that going to the Jews. And from what we've studied and what's been said, that's not going to happen until Christ comes. The gospel going to the Jews, like them becoming the new focus or like a big focus, is going to be in the millennium. That before the second coming, they're going to start to believe, and they have. Like, I just did a video where I showed you that we have people that are of Judah, as declared in their patriarchal blessing. And we know that there are actual Jews, the way that a Jewish person would define a Jewish person that have joined our church. And furthermore, we have the Messianic, why do I always forget the name of this thing? The Jewish, or the Messianic Jewish movement, or what is it called? I'll find out right now. Yeah, the Messianic Jewish movement. We have that's going on. It's growing. More and more Jews are believing in Christ, although not joining our church yet. So that's already happening. But yeah, you have the Muslims. They believe that Christ is coming back. They have that same prophecy that Jesus is coming back, even though they don't believe in Jesus the same way that we do. They also have some concept of the Mahdi. I'm not sure what that is. I still have to look into that, but that there's going to be like an appearance of a Mahdi. But anyway, you have all these different, so it's like, it's not like all of a sudden everything's going to be okay and now everybody's a member of the church at the time of the second coming. And I feel like Satan is preparing the minds of people to not believe Christ when he comes, because he's not going to be able to have such an active influence as he does right now before the millennium. You know, there's other examples of this. It's been a while since I've talked about this, but within the last couple of years, me and my wife and one of my daughters, we've watched all the Marvel movies, and you know, it's good fun. There's obviously bad things in those movies. There's bad things in like every movie. There's very few movies that you can find that don't have bad things in it. But the Marvel movies are like really bad when it comes to this. I get the distinct feeling that these movies are actually inspired by Satan to like specifically to cause doubt in the minds of people that move into the millennium. And the reason why is because you look at like a movie like The Eternals. This one was really bad. I can't go into the all the details. I'd have to like prepare for a video just about the Marvels, but you know, in the Marvel comics, there was this like, I guess, comics about the Celestials, which are these gigantic beings that create stars. That's what they do. And the way that they reproduce is they seed themselves in, or like the next generation. They seed the next generation, the offspring, inside planets. And so it takes a long time for the incubation period and for them to finally emerge from the planet that they're growing inside. But the way that they're nourished as they're developing is they're somehow nourished by the life force of the life that lives on the surface of the planet. And so they're nourished by that, and then the time comes that it's ready for them to be born, and then they essentially destroy the planet when they're born. Okay. And what they do, the problem that the Celestials have is that there's this other type of life form that feeds on other life. And so it causes a problem and they're called deviants. They're like these beast-like, you know, alien things. And they eat humans and all forms of life. And so the Celestials can't have that because they need the life to be there to nourish the Celestial that's growing inside of the planet. And so they have these, and by the way, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this, spoilers, stop now in case you don't want to have it spoiled. So what they do is they have these, it turns out that they're robots. Like, they don't know that they're robots, but the Eternals, let me go back here. So these guys right here, they believe that they are good and that they're there to protect humanity or whatever world they're sent to. And they're supposed to be like caretakers of the planet and watch over them. But later they find out that they're only watching over humanity so that the Celestial can grow, but that the eventual destiny of Earth is for it to be destroyed once the Celestial emerges from the planet. In fact, let me see if I can find a picture of that. Eternals, Celestial, Earth, born. I don't know how to... Yeah, there it is. Here you go. So you have this Celestial right here. So it starts to come out of Earth, but they're able to stop it, basically kill it. In other words, they essentially perform an abortion on the Celestial so that it doesn't destroy the planet. And so you can see that it's not explicit. It's not like they're not explicitly talking about the millennium, but you can see that this can kind of like shape your opinion about the millennium. How? Because what's going to happen at the second coming is that a sizable portion of Earth's population is going to go away. They're going to be burned. And so if you survive that and you move into the millennium, after watching movies like this, you may be conditioned to look at what happened and look at Christ. And if you don't accept that it's Christ, you think that it's just like some alien, then you might have some negative feelings toward Christ and toward this process and what just happened. You'll think back on watching the Eternals and be like, wow, this is almost just like the Eternals, where there's this big change that happened on the planet. Now the planet's a new type of planet. It's a paradisiacal world, but it came at the cost of all these lives. Like, was this really, is this really right? Is this something that I can believe in or support? And even though things are really good right now, I have my friends and family that are not with us, and it's because of this process that this alien came up with that's calling himself Jesus, like something like that. You understand what I'm saying? Another one is, you have Infinity War blip. Let's see what images come up for that. Yeah, here you go. So here you have Spider-Man. You have Spider-Man and Iron Man. This guy right here, this is Peter Parker. In case you haven't watched it, this is Spider-Man, and then this is Iron Man. And what happens is you have this guy right here, Thanos, and what he's trying to do, he's a Titan, and he's worried about the population of the universe, not just Earth, but the entire universe. And he talks about the fact that the universe is overpopulated and there's not enough resources and food and stuff to go around. I want to find a better picture of him. There's not enough resources and food to go around. People are starving, and so the way to fix that is to literally destroy half of all life in the universe, right? And so there's these Infinity Stones right here that, through the course of all the Marvel movies leading up to this point, they come across these Infinity Stones, which were created at the beginning of the universe. And if you get all of them and you put them into a gauntlet like this and then snap your fingers, then you can wipe out, well, you can destroy everybody, I guess. Who knows what the limit is, but his goal is to wipe out half of the universe's population. And so he does it. He's successful at doing it, and hence you have a scene like this where Spider-Man is crumbling to pieces and then just vanishes. And this is very similar, I think. I don't know if it's going to look like this, but when Christ comes at the second coming, there's going to be something similar that happens. And so you have this like big lead up, starting with, well, kind of really starting with the first Iron Man movie, but I guess you could say the Hulk. If you want to do timeline order, you can start with Captain America and then Captain Marvel. But you have all these movies that lead up to this climax, two movies, Infinity War and Endgame, where he's been trying this whole time to accomplish this mission. And of course, he's the bad guy. He is like the big bad guy. And so they're able to I'm not going to go into all that, but they're able to reverse it. But essentially they make this whole thing out to be really bad. And for people that don't really, that aren't very familiar with the church, they're not familiar with Christ, the second coming, they're not religious or whatever, they may be more under the influence of movies like this. And these were some really, really popular movies. These were huge movies that came out. A lot of people watch them. And so if you watch them, you go into the millennium, you think back on it and be like, oh my gosh, this was just like Thanos. Is that the real life Thanos? Is Jesus Christ, this so-called Jesus Christ, is he actually Thanos? And he's portraying things like this was good, this was meant to happen, but this is actually bad. you know, because in the movie, they portray Thanos as like he really believes that he's doing something good. Like um, he's bad, you know, according to the story, but they portray him as no, he thinks that he's doing good. So they even like add that bit in there so that when you look at Christ, you're like, well, he thinks that he's doing good, but that was really bad. It's just like the Marvel movies. We just went through an actual Infinity War and Endgame scenario. So you see what I mean? These are just a few examples. If you watch all the Marvel movies, they all have like kind of like a different take on the second coming. If you apply it to the second coming in the millennium, every time the bad guy essentially is very similar to God the Father, or Jesus Christ, or things having to do with the second coming. Especially one of the worst ones is, let's see, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Ego. In this one, the main bad guy is the father. So they kind of like, so they portray the main, okay. So you have the main character, the main hero of Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay. Played by Chris Pratt. And he's the son. He's a hybrid. His mother is mortal, and then she died of cancer. But unknowns to her, I don't think that she knew. So she had dated him earlier on in life, like when she was, early 20s or something like that. And they ended up having a child together, and he went away. So she gave birth to him, and he thought that he was human, but then he later comes to find out that he's half human and half this. And this guy, Ego, he's not like other aliens. He's like a super, almost like a godlike alien. And anyway, you go through the story, and he basically wants his son to join him in recreating a brand new universe. Like he wants to destroy all life and just start over, because he found life across the universe like imperfect and not very interesting and inferior and things like that. So again, you have this where they're putting into people's mind that God the Father and Jesus Christ are these psychopaths that view the rest of humanity as just like garbage and worthless, and so that's why they're doing what they're doing, because they're striving for a perfect universe, one that's better. You understand what I'm saying? But what's especially bad about this is like they give him like a beard. He's an older man, and he kind of looks like what people typically depict God the Father as looking like. I mean, just look at that. It's not much of a leap. Going from the way that he looks to the way that God the Father is traditionally depicted. So, so yeah, it's really bad. So I think, you have different examples of it. You have it in these really popular movies. You have it coming through on podcasts. Again, this is not saying anything against Joe Rogan. He very well could be sincere. He could be under the influence of, secret combinations, or if not secret combinations, then just Satan himself, because if you're left to your own devices, then Satan can really have sway over you, even though you think that you're doing something good. And again, I'm not saying that he's bad or evil or even conscious of this, but I see the message coming through as he's talking about aliens, interdimensional beings. They've always been here. At one point, he does talk about the second coming. He says, true. Yeah. It's, the world is messed up. We live in a time when we need Jesus, I think, for real. Like if he came back now, it'd be great. Like Jesus, if you're thinking about coming back right now, now's a good time. Pretty soon. Yeah. Now's a good time. So he starts by talking about the second coming. I don't think in like a serious way. Not that he believes in Jesus Christ the way that we do. And then that goes into talking about aliens and UFOs and stuff like that. I've heard him talk about it a number of times. This isn't the first time that he's done it. He's talked about Tucker Carlson because Tucker Carlson is also kind of like the same frame of mind, I think. I haven't looked at it too much, but I think one time he played a clip, Joe Rogan did, of Tucker Carlson talking about UFOs and how there's like a spiritual aspect to them, that it's not just aliens or interdimensional beings, but there's like a spiritual aspect to it. So it's coming through in a number of different ways. You also have the U.S. Navy UFO video that got really big over the last few years, and a lot of people are talking about this. Although I would point you to, let's go to YouTube, Mick West. This guy does a very, very good job on reproducing some of these videos and showing that these are essentially camera artifacts, or it has to do with exposure or focus or any number of things. But that when you see a video like this, he's able to reproduce it and show like how this, okay, I can't even explain it. Just watch him. He's done a number of videos on it, but the media is like keeps bringing this stuff up where it's like, oh my gosh, look, the U.S. Navy took videos of Tic Tac UFOs and blah, blah, blah. And he shows how you can easily do that. Like right here, there's this video explained: wingless Tic Tac UFO moving erratically behind trees. And he shows how that happens. And it's a phenomena of the camera. Here's another one. So I would encourage you to check this out if you think that this is real. I don't think that it is, although I think that it is being pushed. I think that there's something nefarious behind this. Now, Mick West, he's an atheist, so he doesn't have anything. He's not like, again, he doesn't like on his videos, he doesn't like go against religion per se. He's more interested in stuff like this. He's basically a debunker, but he does a very good job. He's very thorough. So, but this is like another aspect of it, of, talking about aliens is becoming more and more mainstream. And I think there's a reason behind that. I think that that's what Satan wants. That's part of his end game. So anyway, just interesting things. I feel like it's more signs of the times that we're getting close. I think Satan's probably tried to maybe kind of slowly get the ball rolling, but you can only do so much with a people who are at a certain stage of development. I think it'd be harder to try and push UFOs in the 1800s, for example, right? They don't even like know anything about airplanes at that point, or rockets or satellites or anything like that. But once humanity reached a point where we started flying and going into space and doing things like that, then you can start to craft this lie in preparation for the second coming. So, I think that's all that I had to say about this. It's just really interesting to watch. All right, but yeah. All right, well, that's going to be it for this one. Well, no, just really quick. I just realized. So with this whole thing about this stuff going mainstream, you have it in the news, and because some people don't take things as true unless it's coming from what they believe is a credible source. And that's good. You should look to credible sources, but some people only look to like mainstream sources, such as the news. In this case with Joe Rogan, I think a lot of ideas are being introduced to certain people because they have someone like Joe Rogan to look to. So for example, we just read that he's this like UFC guy. You know, he's basically like back when I was in school. I don't know if they have this concept anymore of jocks. Like I don't know what high school is like today. But when I was in high school, you had, you know, different groups, and you had the jocks, which were the ones that were all about sports and stuff like that. And he looks like to me that he's probably like a Gen Xer, most likely. Let's see, when was he born? Or maybe a late baby boomer. 1967. He's 50. So what, is he a baby boomer? Do you guys know? Or he may be one of the first of the let's find out. Years for Gen X. So just according to this, and there's different people there's different organizations and groups that say different years, but I think this is generally right. From 1965 to 1980. So yeah, so he's like the first of the Gen Xers. Anyway, and he comes across to me as like, you know, a jock type. And so he would open the door to other jocks, you know, that would be more likely to listen to somebody like him rather than some fringe person. Does it make sense? And here he is talking to Aaron Rodgers, you know, the quarterback of the New York Jets. And he talks to a lot of people, a lot of celebrities, sports figures, and I'm sure he's probably talked to politicians at some point. Maybe, I don't know. So he's like a more mainstream podcaster that that does talk about fringe topics. And so this is one way that Satan can. There's Elon Musk right there. So this is one way that he can get to those audiences, you know. Okay, now I think that's it. So, one, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.